Luke Thomas, probably one of the, well, in my opinion, the finest mind in MMA media these days, or MMA breakdown, and whatever term he would like to endear to himself. But Luke, thank you for giving me your time. How are things with you today?
They are okay. I'm appreciative of the invite to be here and excited to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine, and I would love to start with MK, because it's been quite a busy week for you guys. You've got the resume review out, the pre-game preview out, and I guess what I want to ask is, are these kind of the best weeks for you in terms of the show's direction and where you want to take the goals with MK?
My favorite, no, actually not. Well, I mean, it's they're good. They're good, but what I mean is that like my favorite weeks are the ones where we're in studio or just together, even if they're on the road. I like doing some of those projects, pregame preview and whatnot, but candidly, like I don't really think there's any substitute. And yes, those were done in studio. But what I mean to say is, even if we hadn't done them in studio, just being in studio would actually just be my favorite thing. I think from there, all the good stuff comes.
What is your, aside from Monday, Wednesday, Friday shows, what is your kind of favorite sub show to do on the program?
Well, it was dissected until that got axed. Okay, so if you take that out, I would say probably the pregame preview. I like bringing in Chuck. I like starting the week. We usually put that out on a Sunday. I think he brings, obviously we were on the MMA beat together, so there's a little bit of that recaptured, but he just is a real different energy to what we bring, and he's smart and he has good things to say. And it's a little weird being on that roof and cold a lot of the times, but that's one of the more, I think, unique is a strong word, but it's one of the more different things that we do. And I like it for that reason.
Yeah, 100%. I want to touch on the recent award you won, Best MMA Programming. And there is, memory serves, another award you're up for, Best Sports MMA Awards, if memory serves. But
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, correct me if I'm mistaken. But I guess what does it feel like, the gratification kind of being up for these awards and winning these awards in relation to the project that you and Brian Campbell started out with 2.5 years ago?
It's great in the sense that I mean, that people would vote for us, that there would be enough people to vote for us is just really, you simply cannot take it for granted. And I'm insanely appreciative. And really, it's been interesting for me in the sense that Brian has kind of done a decent job, I think, of bringing me back into the fold, so to speak. I've been slowly kind of unmooring myself from the inside space of the community. But probably not to great effect in terms of like how good it is for me. Rather, what I mean to say is like he's been real good about getting me back into the swing of things with inside the MMA community, and which means sometimes showing up and being a part of that. And so I mean, I realized that was just the award show, but even if it wasn't for him, I don't know that I would have gone at this point. So it's nice to win the awards. It's nice to have that person who can redirect you a little bit. But candidly, if I would just be honest, like I try not to get too high or too low on anything. It is, you have to take inventory of the significance of it, such as there is some, but then you got to just kind of move along, to be honest with you. I don't try to dwell on it, and I don't try to get too low when stuff goes poorly either. I try to just kind of stay in the middle to the extent possible. And I feel like that's the best way to go through things personally.
Is that something that has developed throughout your MMA career, or is that something that's kind of been in you, kind of innate, if you like, as a younger man, perhaps before you started in your media role?
Yeah, probably has. I might live my whole life this way, but in general, what I would say is that I have always felt, and I still feel like, even though I've been inside MMA working in the industry since 2005 or six, I guess, a long time. And I basically have always, and to this day, I feel like a stranger in it. I don't fit in with most people. The way I see the world is very different. And I think that plays itself out in a variety of different roles and you see that in a lot of different ways. And so I'm not sure how to answer your question exactly, except to say that I've probably always been a bit of an outsider. Loner is not quite the right word, but not quite, life of the party guy. No one was ever going to elect me homecoming king. And I don't really feel like, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of nice people, and there's not that my way is the best way. I'm not even trying to suggest anything like that. Rather that just where I am and where everyone else is, there appears to be a pretty big departure, and I've never really been able to bridge that gap very effectively.
First of all, I really appreciate your honesty with that question, and it kind of wasn't the intention to go that route, but
that's okay.
I appreciate your honesty nonetheless. But I think, if correct, I'm not trying to blow smoke, but the independent audience that you have created and you've nurtured, if you like, it only speaks to your quality of your work. So I think what you're saying there about being a loner, perhaps in your estimation, may be true, but nonetheless, it hasn't, at least in my opinion, taken away from the quality of the work, if you like.
No, it's been actually a bit of a boon, which is why I like what Brian and MK offers. It's a completely different thing than what I've basically been doing all this time. Or not all this time, but more in the last 5-6 years or something like that. I would do little projects where we got together, but I was kind of just doing my own thing. I literally had my own radio show that I was doing that with just my name on it. But it was time to start building some bridges back to some other people. But even with that, I've sort of always felt like, I don't know, and you should, it's impossible to prove, but you should read the emails or the DMs I get from my audience. They are radically different from I think the majority of, or at least a large swath, I should say, of the MMA audience. And so it does show that the MMA audience does have, diversity, which I don't mean in the racial sense, but just all different kinds of people with different kinds of sensibilities. And so there is room for some of that, but candidly, that audience is they're big, but they're going to be smaller than the kind of sort of typical MMA fan. I think they're going to be a much more strong supply.
100%. If we talk a little bit about your relationship with Brian, because it's unique to say the least, and I think there's something that I kind of picked up on when I spoke with Brian a couple of weeks ago, and I want to get your take is kind of the to and fro that kind of happens in the show, whereby you're more concentrated on the detail, the succinct, the analysis, and Brian's more concentrated on segments such as have you seen this shit? I guess do you kind of feel that in show, and is that kind of something that happens naturally in your relationship with your co-host?
For sure, I got along with Brian from day one. I mean, we butt heads or whatever, like two normal people might, but generally from day one, I've always thought he was funny. I've always thought he was smart. I met him at the beginning of not really the beginning, but sort of, I didn't go full time until 2011 was when I made that, 2010 maybe. And it was right around then that I had met Brian. He was just doing boxing for, I think, ESPN at the time. And we got along great. And so it just so happened, it was actually Chuck who introduced him back onto the MMA beat, because he was like, yeah, Brian's in Connecticut. I was like, really? I didn't know at the time, obviously. And so that brought people back. But what I mean to say is we didn't work on this. It just either was going to be this way or we were just not going to work. And so it just fits in that space. And also we're trying to do different things. Like one of the things I'm trying to bring is that sort of analysis you described. Brian's trying to bring a little bit more of the actual show to life.
Yeah.
And not all the time, by the way, but somebody needs to have one of those relatively distinct roles. If both people are trying to do the same thing, it doesn't really work. And so part of the reason why I think it works is because we're not even trying to segregate responsibilities in that way. We just take them up naturally. And I think the audience gets a little sweet, a little sour, and both of them work together.
I'm going to ask you a difficult question here, Luke, and fingers crossed Brian doesn't hear this, but what is your favorite section of Brian's and what is your least favorite section of Brian's? If you could get rid of one right now from the MK universe, what would it be?
When you say like a segment he has?
One of his, so if we say fan submissions, have you seen this shit, Wheel of Death, those kind of segments, which is the favorite and which is the least favorite?
Probably the favorite would be Have You Seen This Shit is probably my favorite. But I would say everyone's mileage may vary. I like the fan subs, although it tends to be a weaker segment, but I love Dead Wrong. I love it when the audience roasts us for getting shit wrong. I actually really, people don't do that. And I don't understand. I'm like, dude, if you want a good relationship with your audience, don't expect them to think you're always right. Expect them to think that they can trust what you're saying is honest. And that when you get it wrong, everyone knows and you talk about it, which we do. And so I actually like that segment. I would say my least favorite, Call Me Crazy, is not that great. And the wheel can either be the greatest one or the least one. It's got the greatest potential.
Yeah.
We just haven't fully maximized it yet.
Yeah, 100%. I want to ask you this question, and it's a question that I've kind of had the pleasure of asking a couple of combat sports journalists, and I'm interested to get your thoughts. Hands on heart, Luke, what was the first moment in combat sports media you look back and you think you were truly proud of?
This is back in the time of when you had landlines and then you had like caller ID, right? Remember caller ID on your landlines? Obviously on your phone, it's just built in, but there used to be a time when I was a kid. How old are you?
I'm 22.
22.
1999, I was born.
Jesus, you were born my first year in college. Christ on crutches.
Wait
All
to
right.
make you feel
Point I'm trying to make here. Yeah. Point I'm trying to make is back in the day when you had landlines, before everyone just had these things, people could get you could get like a ID to see who's calling you, not just the number, but if it was registered to a name, it would show up. And I had bought all this equipment and stuff, and I remember I had finally set it up, and this was before. Don't hold me to this. This was either, I think, before the third Chuck Liddell fight, maybe before the Tim Sylvia fight, one of the two. But Randy Couture called. Now, this was peak Randy Couture.
Wow.
Like, this is Randy Couture when he was Captain America, the Natural. He was like, he was sort of like, I mean, he was not like Tony Ferguson, but beloved and as a level of Tony might hit. Like, but there's a lot of other guys like that. I mean, this was peak Randy Couture. And I remember and I had never interviewed someone that famous to that level. And I remember his name showed up on my caller ID. Just seeing it there, Couture, Randy, back in, I think this was 2006, something like that. That was the first time I was like, okay, I am not interviewing irrelevant people in this space. I am actually interviewing somebody of note. And that felt pretty good. For sure.
That reminds me a little bit, completely different, but about 3 months into my journey, I was in a gym interview. And do you know Cage Warriors?
Yeah, of course, sure.
Yeah, Cage Warriors, yeah. I was interviewing a couple of guys on the Cage Warriors scene, and Darren Till walks in the gym. And we got to interview him, and he'd actually agreed to do an interview with me that morning. And by complete chance, we actually met in the afternoon. So I was able to introduce myself, show him a little bit of my work, bought him a coffee. And then 3 days later, we done the interview, and it was kind of in a similar vein, a little bit like, wow, I'm starting to hit people that the beginning of my journey I never thought I'd hit. It's quite a,
yeah.
It may be
difficult.
Like it may be difficult for you to perhaps remember, but it can be quite a perplexing moment sometimes seeing those.
Yeah,
those
I've died inside slowly over the years. But you're right. There have been a couple of moments where you're like, all right, man, I'm putting something together here that's a little bit worth of value, right? Got to be worth something to somebody. So that was one of those moments where I was like, Couture, Randy. I was like, all right, man. All right. I'm not doing something irrelevant here.
Yeah, 100%. Now, on my channel, I focus on video interviews, mainly, but a couple of in-person stuff, but interviews nonetheless. And I know that you've kind of made it well documented that you've kind of tried to shift away from interviews a little bit. I've heard you talk on some of your shows about the kind of redundant aspects of trying to, get the information from someone, and how that's not something that you really want to, chase, if you like. Feel free to correct me if I'm misquoting you there, but I guess what I would like to ask, because I know that you've kind of shifted on Morning Kombat to do more interviews with coaches. Top 5 list, Luke, who are your favourite people to interact with on a camera and try and get some knowledge from in an interview aspect?
Well, a couple things that should be worth. I mean, your summation is quite correct, but let me just add some details. I would not challenge anything, but just to get a broader picture, I probably will start doing more interviews coming up here recently. Not a ton. I'll never get back to what I was doing before, but I will do more than I have been, if that makes sense. Some kind of middle ground. Partly you do a lot of interviews, or I did a lot of interviews in MMA because there is more athlete accessibility relative to other sports, and I just wanted to see what I could learn. And what I just sort of found over time was I found myself in a really difficult position, which is if you try and give an honest account of a fighter's performance, even if you give a positive account, they may not like the way you say that. Certainly if you give a negative account, they will really not like that. And what I had found was that I always thought that was a really important thing for someone in media to do, which is not that we are omnicompetent, but that we give our best assessment of what has happened. To the extent you're wrong, you acknowledge it. To the extent that you're right, hopefully that is, you did some good and important work. I have found that really hamstrings you with trying to get interviews. That is you do that and you will get some, of course, it's not impossible, but it really makes it difficult. And I had a lot of scenarios where guys would agree to do interviews and you could tell they just didn't want to do it. And what I sort of found was like, guys, if you don't want to be here, trust me when I tell you I don't want to be here. I'm not opposed to the idea that interviews are important, or here I am doing one, but rather that, it was more like, listen, if you guys want to talk, we can talk. Now, even that I have backed away from, which is why it's a bit of a problem. And I'm going to lean back into it a little bit more, because if someone does want to talk, then I really do want to have a chat with them. But I just found like I had to make a choice. Either I'm going to stay doing things where I give honest assessments to the best of my ability about what happened and tell the truth to the best of my approximation, or I'm going to withdraw from that and get all the interviews I want. I guess I would rather just not get those interviews. And I think that has hurt my career, to be candid with you, a little bit, but to me, it's a trade worth making.
Yeah.
Sorry. You asked me top five. You asked me top five interviews. Now at any point, like in person, on Skype, whatever, over the phone, boxing, MMA?
Let's say any sport, and can I ask for 3 in person and 3 over Zoom or Skype? Okay,
3 in person. Adesanya sitting in my, when I briefly did the MMA Hour, coming in studio. And by the way, he came to we threw a party once for the BMF fight, right? In New York City. Yeah. So there's a bar, I think it's on like 31st, 33rd Street, something like that. It's right near Madison Square Garden. And he came, and dude, the place was fucking packed, and he was the champ at the time, and he came through. We just were drinking and having a good time on air. I didn't even really learn shit, but it was fun. It was really, really fun. And by the way, I hosted that with Dan Hardy. Someone should ask Dan Hardy about that, because he was there too.
I spoke to Dan a couple of days ago. I'll ask Dan about that.
Yeah, Dan was there, and Dan had a good time too. In person, I had Kamaru, so that would be one. I had Kamaru Usman in on my studio just before he fought Woodley, and that was really fun. And then one time, I don't know if there's still audio, I had Canelo Alvarez in studio, and if you've ever seen Canelo, you may not appreciate this until you get close to him. You can imagine a guy who's the biggest star in boxing, or at worst number 2 behind Anthony Joshua or whatever, 1A, 1B.
Yeah,
he has a giant entourage. Is what you can well imagine. He's got a lot of people. He's got translators and managers and handlers and blah, blah, blah. And he had walked into the studio prior to them ever getting there and sat down. And like, with a podcast, you could, if it's live, I don't know how you would handle it, but this was live radio. So like, if he sits down, the show is on. They can't just go to commercial typically. Yeah. So I was like talking to Canelo, and I was like, how are you doing? And his English, this is 2018, something like that. Yeah. 2017 maybe, and his English at the time was not nearly as good as it is now, but he could understand my Spanish. My Spanish is not good, but it's good enough. So I would ask the question in English over the air. I would tell him in Spanish, he would tell me back, and then I would translate on the air until his handlers got there. And I thought they'd be like 30 seconds behind, where I could be like, hey, how are you doing? What's new? Just real bullshit. They didn't show up for like 5 or 7 minutes, man. I was like, fuck my life. And then we did go to commercial. And then afterwards, he told me how thankful he was that my translations were accurate. I was like, shit. Okay. So that was one of the fun, like in real time, just having to roll with it. And it worked. We did at the end, like a Han Solo Chewbacca bit where he could just kind of get by and then spoke one language back. But that was fun. That was really, really fun.
Do you have any over Zoom that kind of come to mind, that are more virtual, where you've really been able to get that deep dive?
Let's combine Zoom and phone. Combine Zoom and phone. Man. I've had a few. Jesus Christ. I
realize it's a difficult question in your career.
Yes, so many.
Yeah, I do realize that.
Forrest Griffin one time. So this is before.
Luke, can I just stop you before you go any further? Because the name Forrest Griffin. So Paddy Pimblett, I interviewed him in person, and he reposted a picture of me and him on his account when it had so many 100,000 views. and he sent me a message from someone, and I want you to get your opinion. The guy had sent the message and said, wow, I didn't think Forrest Griffin would be as big as you. Do you think I look like Forrest Griffin?
At age 13, maybe. I mean, that dude's a big old gorilla, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I've seen him since and we're fine, but there was one time he got just frustrated, I think. He wasn't like actually mad, but I kept asking him. I can't remember if this was like he was supposed to fight Renato Sobral, or maybe it was like before the rematch with Bonner. I cannot remember. This is like 2000. This is like 2005 or something, right after the Ultimate Fighter. And he was like, if you keep asking me that question, I'm going to fight you, which was kind of funny. And the way he said it, I was like, shit, all right. That was an interesting one. But I mean, again, we're fine. It's like, I don't have anything bad to say about Forrest. I had one time I was interviewing a coach. I think it was Jason Perillo. And we had only like asked to interview him. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, I'm standing. This is before everything had gone super south. And he was like, hey, I'm standing next to BJ Penn. You want to talk to him? I was like, yeah, sure. He just puts BJ Penn on the phone. We talked to BJ for like 10 minutes. It was like, are you shitting me? You know, it's crazy. Wow. And then last but not least, I will say this. It has nothing to do with MMA, but it does qualify to answer your question, which is like favorite interviews over the phone. Sometimes, man, you reach out to people and, you know, it's funny. Like sometimes I'll have like prelim card fighters say no to interviews, and then like the guy who's headlining that card will say yes. It's like, yeah. Okay, dude, whatever you want, you know. But not related to that. Sometimes I've reached out to music artists, and you know, it's really hard to get interviews with them. But one time, just out of nowhere, and granted he's an independent artist, he's not on a major label, but by choice, I reached out to Vinny Paz, the head of Jedi Mind Tricks. And Army of the Pharaohs. And he had a new album coming out during the pandemic, As Above, So Below. And I reached out to his people and was like, would he be interested in coming on? Because here's what we'll do. He's a huge boxing fan. And I was like, let's just talk boxing and then, you know, briefly talk about your album. And he was like, yeah, he'll do it. And he came on. And then since then, we write each other all the time and message each other. I've got like a bit of a, you know, an online, I don't want to call it friendship, but, you know, a written relationship with the guy that I never, ever thought I would have. It just totally random. I wasn't trying for any of that. I think he ended up following me and then just started responding to some of the things I was writing. It just happened organically. It was a great interview, by the way, but also just how it turned into this real, just how you look at your life. You're like, how did I end up here? Okay, I ended up here. You know, you know the rule and you live by it. Closed mouth. We say in America, closed mouth don't get fed. You know, if you're silent, you're not going to get anything. And just because you bark, you may not, but your chances of getting it, if you actually bark for it, are significantly higher.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I'd like to turn the conversation a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, to British MMA. And I want to get your thoughts on this question. So at the moment, Luke, there are 6 British fighters in the UFC rankings. Darren Till, Leon Edwards, Arnold Allen, Paul Craig, Joanne Calderwood, and Tom Aspinall. And there are a whole host of others, I presume, top 20, top 25, unofficially ranked, but the top of their divisions. If I gave you a free £100,000 bet and said, Luke, put your money on who is the second British champion in history, who's the money on?
Okay, read me that list one more time.
The list is Till, Edwards, Arnold Allen, Craig, Calderwood, Aspinall.
£100,000. That's a good amount of money. Okay. I think it's probably unlikely for Calderwood, right? I don't think that's unfair. Craig is so there's one of my last interviews that I did with my radio show was through Paul Craig. He is have you talked to him? He's a delight to talk to.
I haven't, unfortunately. It's my understanding that he does limited media, especially in the lead up to fights, but I'd love to get him on.
He's get that one when you can, because he's fun to talk to. So that one, but you know, that's a tough ask of him. The guys who I think really have championship potential are the other ones. So the other ones really stand out to me as championship potential. Till, I know a lot of people have kind of soured on him. I have not. Edwards, I don't know how you could say he's not championship potential anyway. Arnold Allen, easily one of the most underrated fighters that are ranked in all of the UFC. I mean, bar none. And then Tom Aspinall. To answer your question, I'm going to say Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is a fucking beast.
Yeah.
He is quick. He's athletic, dude. He makes good decisions. Now he's relatively speaking a little bit green. I don't think that's unfair to say. He's still getting into things. But isn't he still in his 20s? And we're talking about heavyweights where
29, 29, Thomas.
29. So not for too much longer, but still, we talk about Tai Tuivasa being 28, 29. Like this is like the youngest you could see. So, of those bets, I think most people, or I don't know what most people might say. I think a lot of people might say Till or Edwards. Allen is your dark horse, but my bet would be Aspinall. Given the division, given his youth, and given what he's already showed, that dude is going to be a problem for people later.
I agree 100%. And what I would like to secondly ask to that is of the 6 that I never mentioned, I did mention, of all the others on the rankings, just notably the London cards and a couple of others coming up, who else is kind of on your radar as potentially could in 2023, 2024 establish themselves as a threat in their respective division?
Now, like a British fighter only?
In the British fighters, yes.
Ooh, of the 6 I mentioned, or of not the 6 that I mentioned?
Without the 6 I've mentioned, is there anyone outside the rankings who you look at and go, this guy one day type of scenario?
There's got to be, well, I mean, first of all, Paddy Pimblett's got to be on most people's radar. Now, I do think he is talented, but I also do think he is green.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's, what is he, 26?
26. 26.
Yeah. I mean, that dude has so much time. I think my only concern with Paddy is I think Paddy has a high championship potential. My only concern is because there is clearly a marketing push behind him. I only worry if that push might happen too soon, but if it doesn't and he is match made correctly, certainly that's somebody, I mean, you'd be foolish to not pay attention to him. That other than that though, I'm trying to think. Candidly, I'm not going to be the best with names. Tell me some names that you think would stand out in that particular regard. So
the 2 names that I would kind of be on my, they're all on my radar, but the ones that are to me are on rocket ships are A, Lerone Murphy, and B, Jack Shaw. They're the 2 that I kind of look at, both undefeated, both showing a ton of potential. Notably Lerone, especially with that knockout of Amir Khan. Lerone's the one who I look at and go, and some of the gym stories that you hear and the way that he trains is, he's establishing himself as a real
he's
problem.
Either undefeated or has like 1 loss or 1 draw, something like that, right?
He has a draw to Zubair Tukhugov on the Khabib Poirier undercard.
Yes. Yeah, that dude's a hammer. He's a hammer. I saw his fight against Amir Khani and I was like, okay, all right, that's very good work. Sure, let's put him on the list as well. I will say too, though, we're talking about UFC. Bellator's got a lot of UK Irish talent that I'm not saying it's on par. Right? Folks should care about it with UFC, whatever, but like they got a lot of good fighters in that part of the world too.
Look, I've got 2 names to mention as well who are outside of the 2 promotions we touched on. Brendan Loughnane. Is that guy is one thing. First and foremost, on a personal note, that guy has been immaculate with me and helping me out in my career. He's just been fantastic. But secondly, his skill set is undeniable, despite some of the wrongs that have been done to him. But secondly, there is keep an eye on this, because 2 weeks today there is a massive Cage Warriors unification bout. Jordan Vucenic is fighting Paul Hughes for the featherweight title.
I know Paul Hughes. Yes.
Yeah, Jordan Vucenic as well. If you get the chance, have a little look at Jordan Vucenic. He's very, very highly rated.
Okay. Very good. I will do that.
I would not be surprised.
You're schooling me here. You have a better command of the market. Well, of course you do, but I'm just saying you have clearly a better command of the market. I rely on people like you to help me stay informed.
Well, I appreciate that, but I would just say that I would not be surprised if in 2 or 3 years' time Vucenic is in Lerone Murphy, Jack Shaw's position. He's that good, as is Hughes. But so there's one.
By the way, I don't know if there is a Cage Warriors card. It might either be today we're recording it or tomorrow. It's a stateside one.
Yeah.
And my buddy is fighting in it. So I don't know when this will come out, but Justin Berry. Justin Berry is the guy who's had 2 fights, and both of them have been, I think, outside crescent kick KOs. So keep an eye out for that guy.
Yeah, 100%. I've got one final exercise for you, Luke, if you still got the time.
All right, sure.
What I've done is I have compiled quite a small list of current UFC ranked fighters. I'll read the list off to you, and all I would like to know is yes or no. Do you envisage this person one day holding championship gold?
Okay.
First and foremost, we'll start at flyweight. Kai Kara France.
He has exceeded expectations. I'm probably wrong, but I'll say no.
Okay. Merab Dvalishvili.
Yeah. Boy, I don't think I've ever seen a motor like his. I don't think I've ever seen a motor like that. Man, if he can tighten up some of the other pieces of his game, he gets hit a lot. That's a good one, man. That's a good one.
I should mention I've tried to, sorry to interrupt, but I've tried to quite selectively, think of people that may probe your thinking and may kind of be on that edge. So no pressure.
Man, you know as well as I do, that motor of his, I mean, he can weaponize cardio like I've never seen. It's almost like knockout power, though, right? What I mean by that is you've seen these guys who just have unbelievable knockout power. A lot of times they're actually a technical step behind their compatriots who are not as heavy-handed because those guys have to work on some more. So I wonder if the fact that this fucking guy just never gets tired actually limits some of his technical discipline. So for that reason, I will say no as well. But I could be. I mean, Merab is a fucking giant hammer, you know?
Yeah, agreed. I've got the ever controversial, the ever in the news person next. Sean O'Malley.
Oh, man, you got some good ones. That division is so tough, and he's unproven against the very top of it.
This is ever. Let's not forget. This is, we were mentioning Paddy's age earlier. This is in their career. So just keep that in mind as well.
Right. Okay, I'll say yes. I'll say yes for Sugar Sean because of his youth and his slow rolling his way through the division. I mean, obviously he ran into a bit of a buzzsaw against Chito, but since then it's certainly rebounded and looked pretty good. Yes, I will say yes. I will say yes.
Okay, we'll move up to 145. Yair Rodriguez.
How old is he?
Yeah,
do we know?
His late 20s, around about 28, 29, if memory serves.
You know what? He gave Max a fucking fight. I'll say yes. I do think as long as Max doesn't age out and Volkanovski is there, it's not likely, but if they age out and he stays there, he's going to be a force for sure.
Okay. Another guy at featherweight, Brian Ortega.
Shit, man. It ain't like he's not good. So my concern with Brian is not ability. It would just be all the damage he's taken. It is so significant. For that reason, I'll say no. But he might beat Yair, in which case, what the fuck do I know? So,
Okay, we'll move up to lightweight now. A guy who's already fought for a title in recent history, Michael Chandler.
Yes, he can hold it. That will depend a little bit on what kind of fights he gets, but it seems like the UFC is going to be dishing him up big names anyway. He came that close to winning it to begin with. It would be not smart to be like, oh, he can't win that. Yeah, he definitely could. Yes.
Rafael Fiziev.
Yes. Again, all these guys you mentioned, no fighter is perfect. All these guys you mentioned are typically, Chandler notwithstanding, are a little bit slightly on the junior side, some more than others. Fiziev is not a junior competitor, but he's still relatively early in his UFC push. So for that reason, he still has some room to grow. But that, yeah, I mean, what am I going to tell you? You don't already know about Rafael Fiziev,
Yeah. The next one, Dan Hooker.
That's a tough one for Dan. I mean, Dan's been up there against some really good guys and has had some really good performances, but holding gold seems a bridge too far.
Okay, we'll move up to welterweight now. A guy I know you're very high on, and I think I saw an interview with him a couple of months ago. Sean Brady.
At welterweight. Yeah, he can do it. Okay. He has the capability. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we've got my man, a personal friend of mine, Vicente the silent assassin, Luque.
I think if Kumaru's there, it's not really in his future. Oh, God, man, you're picking some good guys. Fuck. See, you know what this exercise should tell you? Not you or who, but when I say you, I mean,
MMA is unpredictable.
MMA is unpredictable. More than that, we do this focus. Like we're just playing a game. Like we don't know the future. But what it does show you is you could say no to almost all of these guys. But you look at the quality and you're like, fuck me, man. These guys are unbelievable. It just goes to show you that, like, sometimes the difference between a champion and a not champion is not as great as you might imagine. And there are a lot of guys who don't end up putting belts around their waist that are very worthy of your admiration and understanding what exactly they did that was so special. Okay, if we want to reserve the highest order of praise for the belt holders, who would object? But I really, really hope people take that. Like, I'm not fucking around. Like, these are hard questions because we're not talking about scrub motherfuckers. We're talking about very, very good fighters.
Luque is only 29. I'll just throw that in there.
He's 29. Dude, in any other organization, that dude be wearing gold. In any other organization, he'd be wearing gold. You know what? Fuck it. I like him. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes to Vicente Luque. There you go.
We'll move up to middleweight now, and I realize this is getting slightly tedious, so we've only got five left, but we'll move to middleweight. We've got my friend who we mentioned earlier, Darren the Gorilla too. Yes.
I know everyone has given up on him. And by the way, you know, there are not everyone, a lot of people have given up on him, but and he got put. This is talking about Paddy Pimblett. I think Darren Till got pushed a little too quickly. And granted, he had a hand in that as like advertising himself as the next big thing. But just I hope folks can understand, not everyone's going to be Conor, but people can be good later. I think Darren Till has shown a lot of ability. I think if he can tighten up some things, he could be a very, very special fighter. So yes, I will say he can do it.
Sean Strickland.
No. He is quite good. Like, again, I mean, these are high ranked guys. These are like 5, 6 best guys in the world, but not enough punching power. Although the volume is high, but he's very well rounded defensively. Just not. I don't know for championship level if there's enough high octane offense behind it.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on to 205 now, a guy who a lot of people think should have wore gold at UFC 247, but unfortunately never. Dominic Reyes.
Man, I thought he beat John Jones.
Yeah,
I really. That's the only fight I've ever scored against John Jones in terms of a decision. And then he just kind of collapsed. And he got close too, in the sense that he got two title fights, but then lost them both. I think that will probably tell you that he doesn't, unfortunately.
I'm not doing a joke here, so don't take any offense when I say this, but the next guy is Lionheart, Anthony Smith.
Anthony Smith. I love Anthony Smith's game, man. You know, I think he is probably. Well, who would it be? Could he be? I mean, the thing is, he lost to John, and that was okay. You lose to John, whatever. Then he lost to Glover relatively convincingly. Yes, I really like Anthony Smith. I like him as a person. I like him as a fighter. I've always had nice things to say about him. I always will. But that is probably asking a lot. So I would probably say no.
And we'll finish off with a man of the hour in terms of recent terms. The Barbie girl, Tai Tuivasa.
Dude, at what is he, 28, 29 himself? I mean, that's just so young. He just might, dude. He just might. But again, like Aspinall, that's very much predicated on, one, the state of that division being older and their relative youth, the level of ability they've shown. But I want to be clear, for Aspinall and Tai Tuivasa, I'm not saying they're the same. But what I'm saying is the level of ability they've shown has been good enough for what they've done. It's not good enough to win a title. They're going to have to keep graduating to get there. But the two guys at heavyweight that if you're scouting for the future, it's Aspinall. Well, Gane is already there, but I'm saying the guys who haven't gone that far, it's Aspinall and it's Tuivasa, the Brit and the Aussie. That's who it is.
100%. I hope you enjoyed that exercise. I've just got one final question for you, and this is a question I ask to every single guest, and I'm not going to leave you out, Luke. What are your goals for 2022? What do you want to accomplish in your
2022?
Career, the next 12 months?
Yeah. So I would probably say two different ones. I would like to see Brian and I don't, when I tell you that I've been treated like a king by Showtime, I'm probably underselling it. They've been nothing but, I don't know if I've ever worked at a place better than that, and CBS Sports too. But I would like, if possible, if there's a lane for it, I would like to see Brian and I do the official post-fight show for Showtime fights. Now, I don't know if that would work for Bellator, but it would certainly work for the big boxing fights, right? So we have Spence versus Ugas coming up. Showtime, it's not like a regular sports channel, right? Like ESPN finishes the game and then they go right to Sports Center or Sky or whatever. It's the same kind of thing. Here, Showtime, like after the fights are over, they might roll to a movie or whatever. So on the digital side, if you'll notice, fight ends, they are very clear and quick about getting the post-fight presser aired, but there is no corresponding post-fight show. I think Brian and I, we already do that for MK. I would like to see if it's possible, again, if there's a lane for us to take that over for Showtime. I think that would be, A, I think we could do a good job, and B, I'm not taking anyone's job. It's a wide open lane, So I'd like to see that. I think that'd be big. And then on the personal side for my channel, I just got the studio space. I haven't even unpacked all the boxes. It's still a mess. But I would like to see by the end of the year, if I can't reasonably turn that into a place where I can more effectively churn out analytical content. The whole idea behind that was, my kid is sleeping now, but like, I love my daughter. Please, I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying It is a little bit difficult to do this kind of work uninterrupted given the circumstances. And so for that reason, I'm just trying to buckle down. And I think I can, I don't want to put a number on like subs or anything like that. I just want to get to a point where I'm comfortable and happy with doing, let's say 2 or 3x the volume I'm doing now, and that people are enjoying it. And I would also say for all the folks out there trying to lose weight, keep going. I know a lot of you have given up since January, but I've been trying to lose weight now for over a year. It's gone extremely well, but it's gone very slowly on purpose. By the end of, by if we talked a year from now, I would like to be probably maybe another 40 pounds if possible. I don't know if that's possible, but if possible, that would be the maximum end of healthy weight loss. I would like to be in 1 year's time at the maximum end of healthy weight loss. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. Well, all three are fantastic goals in their own right, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully accomplish all three, most notably the 2 in your career. It's been a pleasure to watch your journey. I've been following your channel for a number of years and your work, so it was a huge honor to get you on today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. And you can do me a favor. If and when I get to Liverpool, you got to show me around. You got to show me what's good in Liverpool. I've been to the UK many times, and I've been to London. I've been to Manchester, Birmingham. Where else have I been? A lot of different places, but I've never been to Liverpool. So if I go to Liverpool, I'm calling you up, okay?
Well, I'll be quite candid with you, Luke. I'm planning a trip over to the States this year. I'm hoping to meet up with. So something I never mentioned earlier. My first kind of big guest was Calvin Kattar. So within 6 weeks of starting my channel, Calvin Kattar came on and did an interview with me for the Max Holloway fight. It was the fight week of the Max Holloway fight. And since then, we've established a great relationship with the New England cartel. I've had each of the team on twice individually. And for my 1 year anniversary, we had Rob, Calvin, Tyson Chartier, and Jake Manini. So we've done a podcast with all 4 of them on the screen. So they've been immaculate once again in helping me in my journey. So I'm planning to go over and spend some time with them, hopefully, before one of the boys' next fight. So
have you been to the States?
I've never been, no.
Yeah, it's like England, only wild as shit. People are strange. Boston's a cool town, though. That's where all those guys are based. Yeah. You'll like Boston. It's cool.
Fantastic.
It's a cool place.
Before we finish, Luke, anything you want to say, sign off with, anything like that? The floor is yours.
No, I would just want to say I want to thank you for the time. And to people who watch this, you can find all my stuff, youtube.com/Luke Thomas. Give it a follow, see what you like. If you like it, stick around. That's it.